So let's talk about the art style in the new Ninja Turtles movie. And when I saw the trailer for this one, I was really intrigued by the art style used here. And I think, and I could be wrong with this, but with the introduction of Into the Spider-Verse movie, it really allowed other movies or other studios to experiment more with art styles because how successful that movie was. And you can see here, they use a lot of this rough, painterly, sketchy look, concept art look style to the movie in general. And if you're just watching this and you just pause the scene at any point, it almost looks like a concept art for the movie. But it's the movie itself, so they really were able to take that style of concept art and that painterly rough sketch and visible brush strokes, and really add it into it and make it this style for this movie. So although the style might look rough and very painterly and not fully rendered, I think when I look at it as an artist, I think it actually requires a lot of work to make this style work in general. Part of the reason for that is you still need to think about the colors. You still need to think about how to render it to give that believable and give that look for a movie, but still have that painterly or concept art style to it. So for example, when we look at this scene here, if we just pause it at this scene, you can see that the background is very painterly. You can see a lot of the brush strokes visible and a lot of scribbles also. It might feel or seem random, but it really works. So if we look at, for example, at the moon, you can see some of these visible brush strokes and these lines that make the circle for the moon. It's very visible. Even the clouds, very painterly. You can see a lot of lines and scribbles there. But it really works because when we come back to look at the characters, they don't have that many scribbles here, and the rendering is a little bit more clean here while maintaining the same look. So it's important to know that even though the characters are a little bit more rendered in this scene, you don't want it to look out of place. So it's still rendered in the same style. You still see the visible brush strokes. You still see some line art in some spots, but having this look here with the background make it really work. So as I was looking at this, I was pausing at different and taking screenshots at different spots to kind of take a look. And you can see here very clearly how they used this sketch or painterly style to relay some messaging. So for example, you can see the car itself has lots of these highlights on the different sides to show that it is reflective. But what I found even more interesting is the way they portrayed light. So the lights of the car, you can see just simple lines showing that the light is beaming from it. Even the exhaust, you can see very rough and looks almost like a sketch that really works. So looking at the style, you can really see how it's really painterly. It's like an artist making a movie, and you can really see the work of the artist rather than that really highly rendered style that we're used to. And there's nothing wrong with the two different styles. Both are really good and really beautiful, but this style makes it unique and new and exciting. So when it comes to a couple other scenes where I want to talk about the way they portray focus and things that are out of focus is really by adding details to the parts that are important and having things that are in the background very rough with big brush strokes with no details. For example, in this specific scene, we can see a lot of detail here in the face of the character, in the face of both characters, and we can see the colors and we can see some line art here to emphasize certain things. But then when we go back to the background, for example, that character that is lying down, you can see that the face is almost just plain with maybe two lines and there's no detail at all. Same with the background. A lot of the stuff that we see in the background, very rough, with a few brush strokes to relay the message and show what the painting is about. But because it's out of focus, it's not important. They don't spend much time on it. And this style of making very big brush strokes and having it simplified really enhances the style of this movie. Now, something similar that I see here that I also saw in the Spider-Verse movie is the use of line art or sketch lines back into the scenes. And it really emphasizes that painterly look. If we look at most of these paintings, we can see things are line art or sketch lines are added into specific parts of it to give that look and enhance that look. And it really helps define shapes in some places rather than trying to render. Simple lines show or relay the message. For example, here the facial features, a few lines show that. We can see that again here. For example, the neck is really simplified with just 2 lines. Same with here, the facial features, instead of adding too much light and shadow to show the angry face, a quick couple of lines relays that or shows that that impression of the face. So now let's just jump into a process of me trying to replicate a scene and try and draw it and paint it, and I'll explain some of the things that I've learned through the process of studying this scene. So the first thing I did as part of the study was to turn things to grayscale to kind of see what things look like. And as I was suspecting, things look a lot darker and more towards the bottom third or even quarter of the value range. And then with some areas having more light. And you can see by showing the levels range and doing the color picking, I can see how dark things are. So then it was time to replicate this to actually learn what happens and how to do it. So I started with a sketch, tried to keep it rough and not too many details. Same with the background. So I started with the character first and then added a few guidelines for the background. Then when it came to painting the background, I started immediately with color and added those colors in, and with big brush strokes. So when you look at the background, there's not that many details and a lot of almost sketch lines and scribbles. So I decided to do a similar thing by painting it in that way. And of course, trying to add some of the light and shadows in a very rough way. And then after the main shapes were done, some details were added in using really black or really dark sketch lines to give it that style or that effect that they have in this movie. And then I wanted to move into the character painting. Now, something to keep in mind is that when I wanted to paint the character, you have to keep in mind relative to the scene, and that's kind of why I did the environment first or the background first before I did the character. Because in this scenario, just choosing green wouldn't work. The environment is a lot warmer and it goes towards the red a lot more. So the character needs to look green relative to the environment. So I can't just choose the green color straight. So instead, I chose a color closer to the orange and the red and then started painting that way. And then you can see afterwards I will turn it into green and at the end of the painting, and you can see the difference, and you can see that if it's only green, it really stands out. It doesn't look like it's part of the scene. And then when it came to rendering, really I didn't use too much of a soft brush, and I tried to keep a little bit of texture in there with my same round brush, but increase the hardness so that you can see some of those brush strokes. And then added also the rim light or that red light in parts of the painting. And then after adding that rim light or that red light, I also created a new layer to add some line art or sketch lines. And those sketch lines kind of add a little bit more character to the style. So you can see it, I added it as part of the top of the head, for example. They're not line art on the outline only, it sometimes goes outside the outline and it adds that sketchy feel to the painting. So when the painting is done, you can always go to the auto color, auto tone, or auto contrast settings to see what it will give you. So I merged the layers for the character and also merged the layers for the background. And then if I do the auto color or the auto tone for the character, you can see how greener it looks. So yes, this is really more the true color of the character, but it doesn't work with the environment. It almost looks like there is artificial light on the character, and it's very disconnected from the environment. So always keep in mind when choosing the colors to choose them in a way to fit your environment. So for me, looking at this style, I think it's really incredible and it's genius, because it's very difficult to make this painterly look work for a movie, and just having these things that look like concept art all the time work as a full movie. So I'm really excited to see more and more of these experimentation with the art styles in different movies, and then I'm excited to see what else can we see. When the Spider-Verse came, we thought that was incredible and that was amazing, and now with this one they pushed it a little bit more and did a complete different one, and I hope we see more and more experimentation in different styles to give us these amazing movies. Now, if you want to see my analysis of the Spider-Verse movie, you can click on this video here.